Okay, hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to use Camera Raw. Camera Raw is the pre-processing software that you can use with Photoshop. The capabilities of it is exactly the same as Lightroom, but why I prefer using Camera Raw to Lightroom is because Lightroom has like an archiving system built into it where Camera Raw kind of just stands alone. I do prefer using Bridge because it doesn't catalog your stuff like Lightroom does, and doesn't make like separate folders that you have to work out of to be able to use it and to keep your metadata on this. I just go through Bridge. It's kind of like a file explorer as well, so you can use it to manage all of your files, not just the set that you're currently working on. You'll find it has all the same features, so if you're familiar with Lightroom or use Lightroom regularly, you'll find that all the exact same features are here. They're just kind of laid out very differently. It doesn't work like in a step system. They're all just kind of like here as tabs here and here at the top. Okay, so I'm going to run you through the basic features first. Personally, I only use these features. And then I do the rest of my editing through Photoshop. But I mean, if you use a lot more of them, you know, that's cool on you as well. I'll run you through them anyway. Okay, so you'll find that you have your basic white balance rebalancing here. I don't usually touch these because I prefer to do it with the color balance tool in Photoshop, because I find I get a bit more control because you get the full color spectrum to work from. Here you can just do the blues and yellows and the greens and magentas, but you'll find it's exactly the same, and you can choose like pre-programmed settings as well for basic color correction if you do prefer to do your color correction beforehand. I personally don't. And then you'll get your basic settings. You'll find you'll get exactly the same settings in Lightroom as well. You get your exposure, which is obviously just to up and lower your exposure. I think I'll bring it a little up in this one. You get your contrast, which is kind of self-explanatory as well. It's just contrast. I don't really touch any of these. The ones I usually use, I'll use exposure, highlights and shadows, and if there's some extreme differences in the dynamic range that I want to bring down or up, I'll use the blacks and whites as well, but not very often. Like you'll see with the highlights, it'll bring your highlights up and down. Usually I'll bring my highlights down a bit. And then you get your shadows, which you can also put up and down, which is just all the shadows in your picture. I'll usually put those up a bit. And then blacks and whites will take the more extreme colors to pull up and down. Like you'll see the whites will pull down the actual whites, not just the highlights. The highlights gives us a softer, broader range than these, if that makes sense. So I'm so bad at explaining stuff, but you check, it kind of washes out the colors, as opposed to these, which just kind of bring up the, you see the difference it makes. Like these just bring up the shadows, not the stark blacks in it. Clarity kind of sharpens the image a little. Like it's kind of like putting a high pass on, but not quite. Like it gives it a strange effect. It's nice if your image is slightly soft focused and you want it to be a little sharper, then you can bring up the clarity a little. Then vibrance obviously ups up the colors in, like the vibrancy of the colors. If you do want to up the colors, I'd suggest using vibrance over saturation, because the colors will stay a lot more true than, say, if you had to use saturation. It tends to really make the colors look blotchy, like you'll see here under chin and around her eyes and that. It's really bringing out the oranges and the reds in her legs and that, which I personally don't like. Whereas with the vibrance, even if you pull it up all the way, it doesn't distort the colors as badly as the saturation does. I don't usually touch these because I'll usually use those in post on Photoshop, so, but I thought I'd just run you through them anyway. Then you get your tone curves as well, which you do get in Lightroom. They're pretty self-explanatory, it's just curves. You can just kind of move them around here don't know what that actually does. But yeah, this is just kind of to do your highlights, your lights and your darks in that. Pretty similar to the basics. This is just a slightly more advanced view of it. Here you can adjust them directly here. This is kind of just like your highlights and shadows and blacks and whites as on the basic curves, and then you can do it as a curves as well if you want to have more control over how you control your curves. Like a rule of thumb is, like, I don't use like super complicated curves. I usually use it for dodging and burning and for contrast, but you can really get in there and you can use it to alter your reds, blues and greens through here specifically. You can see as you move it around, it'll kind of pull the red out, and you can add more contrast in the reds and all of that through this tool here. Like I said, personally I don't use this over here. I prefer to do this in Photoshop directly, but like you see, you can change it here if you so feel like it. Then here you get detailing. This is for sharpening and noise reduction. The noise reduction system here is really good. They do suggest that you zoom into 100% to get the most accurate view, because noise reduction can remove some of the noise. Like, this image isn't really noisy, so it doesn't really help using this, I guess. I'm shooting quite bright, so there isn't much noise. Here's a little bit of noise here, but I mean, it's a really powerful tool for removing noise. As you can see, it does take it away really nicely, but like I said, it can sometimes get rid of some of the detail, but I would suggest using this over the built-in noise reduction on Photoshop. This one is a lot more accurate. It will automatically bring up the sharpening and that as you do the noise reduction, which is pretty cool. So, like, also if you are a little bit soft focused, you can come back in here to sharpen up, and then you just kind of balance the two out to avoid too much noise or too much detail reduction from the noise reduction. And then here we have grayscale conversion, and this is if you just want to do blacks and whites, and you can adjust the color lightness from here. Again, if I do want to add grayscale to it, I'd rather do it in post rather than here, but it works the same as a black and white tool on Photoshop. You can do an auto where it kind of balances the color for you, or you could just kind of do whatever. Like, I mean, if you pull up the reds, then your skin will look a lot paler. Depending on the before colors, you can change it according to that, you know. Like, obviously the purples and that, there's a lot of purples in her hair and her outfit, so it'll change the colors there. It's just normal black and whites and stuff, and you can do saturation from here as well, where you can just pull out the certain colors, and then luminance as well. They all kind of do very similar things. But yeah, that's grayscale. Like I said, if you just want to edit directly through this, you can do most of your editing and then just do retouching through Photoshop itself. You can do basic retouching here. There's a clone tool, so again, it's up to you. Then there's split toning. I've never actually used this, but I think this, you can just kind of do the saturation of specific colors in the image as well, in the highlights and the shadows and the balance and all that. I've never used this, so I can't really give you much on that, but I do know that Lightroom does have a similar feature. And then you get lens profile correction. I don't know if it's really necessary to explain this, but I'll explain it anyway. It's just pretty much to give you lens correction for any distortion that your lens will give. Like I know my lens does give me distortion in the center. It bulges the center out, so this just kind of pulls it straight. I tend not to use lens correction because I do shoot to compensate for the distortion of my lenses. You'll find that after you've used the lens for a while, you'll get very used to the way it shoots, and you won't really necessarily have to do this unless it's like really wide lenses and it distorts a body part funny or whatever. But like I said, you do learn how to use your lenses to your advantage, so you kind of learn how to avoid like noticeable distortion just by shooting. Then this can also get rid of aberrations. Aberrations are those little fringes that happen on the edges of images. Like I know this one, in very stark contrast environments, it can give me some chromatic aberrations. I think if I remember correctly, mine are green and magenta. So you can kind of go from there, and you can say which hues you want to remove and all of that from here and get rid of them as well. But I have also noticed that this can take away some detail, but for the most part I don't really have too bad an issue with it, so I don't really worry about getting rid of the fringing. And then that's just to manually control the distortion as well, so you can manually fix it. But usually the auto fix is pretty accurate, and it has a very wide range of lenses that you can fix from. And then you get effects. This just has your grain if you want to add grain to your photo, and then your vignette. Vignette, I don't really know how to pronounce that word, excuse me if I'm butchering it, but it's just for adding vignette and taking it away if there's a heavy vignette on your lens. Yeah, and you can actually kind of go from there with this if you want to add your vignette. And yeah, like I said, I add all mine in post. I don't really worry about using it here, but it is a very handy feature if you want to pre-process before you go into Photoshop. The calibration, I'm not really sure how this works, but again it's just kind of for color balance, and that's if your color balance is off. So you can pre-program it if you know your camera is consistently too red or consistently too green or whatever the case is. Then you can just kind of program it in and set it every single time, or you know, add in the standards for all the different modes, like vivid and that. You'll see if you go into your settings on your camera, you'll most likely have an option that you can set your camera settings to this, which is nice. But like I said, I like to do it manually in Photoshop. I like to do my color balancing and everything there. It gives me a bit more control. But this is really nice if you, like say you like shooting on vivid, and then as soon as you shoot raw, and then as soon as you put it on the computer it goes flat again. This is kind of a quick way just to get those settings back in a very similar way. So yes, that's that. And then this is where your presets will be saved, so you can actually do like a standard across the board of all your settings, and then kind of save it and then just put it on every time. Especially if you're doing batch, you can actually save your batch here for every single image that you do from that set. And then that's snapshots, I'm not really sure what that is. Okay, and then at the top here you have your zoom, which is obviously to zoom. You have your hand tool, that's for when you're zoomed in, then you can use that to kind of pull the image around. And then you have your color picker, which kind of messes around with the white balance. Your white balance tool, sorry, not a color picker. This is a color picker. You can choose color samples. Don't really know what to use that for, I won't lie, but it's there. Then here we have the target adjustment tool for hue, saturation and all of that. It works really nicely with the grayscale tool. Then you have your crop. You can choose your ratios that you want to crop to. So when you crop, then it'll stick to a select ratio. Or you can just do unconstrained, whatever the case is. Then from there you have a leveling tool, which is just to straighten out your image. So if you shot it skew and you want to straighten it out, you can just follow the lines in the photos. Say there's a line like that, you want to line it up like that. Then it'll crop it for you at the right angle. Then there's a spot removal tool, which works the same as the Photoshop spot removal tool. It's pretty self-explanatory. Like there's a spot, you kind of choose where you want it to sample it to. So it's kind of like Photoshop's spot removal tool. It's very similar. Yeah, that's spot removal tool. You can use that to do that. I just do it in Photoshop because it's a lot easier for me. But like I said, if you do most of your processing through these kind of tools before you go to Photoshop and just do basics over there, and that's cool too. It does have it, so it's really nice. Then there's a red eye removal. Obviously I don't have red eye, so I can't really show you how to use it, but it's also pretty self-explanatory. You just kind of select the eyeball. You can kind of select it and then it'll remove the red eye for you, but it doesn't have one, so it will not pick it up. And the adjustment brush is just if you want to do specific areas with your main adjustments. So say you find the eyes are a little underexposed, and what you can do is you can pull up the exposure and the shadows in the eyes and just make the eyes brighter instead of the whole image. And then you can pinpoint it and readjust it and everything from there. Then you get the graduated filters, which you can kind of pull on like that, and again that's just to kind of graduate the settings you have going on over here. So you can make the top darker because it starts from the top to nothing. The green line will be where it's the heaviest and the red line where it's the lowest, and then you can kind of use this to add your filters and stuff as well as in Lightroom. And then that's your preferences, and then this is to rotate the image to the left, and this is to rotate it to the right. Then you can toggle between full screen mode, and then you can save the image directly from here. You can save it in the same location, you can rename it, you can choose the format, and then this as well, you can batch as well, so you can do a whole set through here too, which is nice if you just want to do simple, very simple editing instead of, you know, the whole shebang. I think that pretty much explains Camera Raw. I really hope this was helpful, and then see you guys in the next one.